क्या transition था ये from being this camera shy person to now uploading so many reels? I have seen you write that I'm a freelancer, but on this page I don't see a lot of freelancing content. You sounded very guilty when you said that money was important. Why are people guilty of earning money? I don't get it. I love money. I work hard because I want to make more money.
Yeah, and I think one of the major reasons why I started out my page on personal finance was actually to change that mindset.
Calm down before you stress up the groove. The energy a little different when the blessings accrue. Hey, who you talking to? Just know I ain't no regular fool. Could be anything in the world, but I can never be you because I stand tall like I'm on my
You know, सबसे ज़्यादा लोग मुझे क्या बोलते हैं कि वो कंटेंट क्रिएशन क्यों शुरू नहीं करना चाहते, बिकॉज ऑलरेडी इतने सारे कंटेंट क्रिएटर्स हैं. श्रेया स्टार्टेड इन अप्रैल एंड नाउ शी हैज़ more than 60,000 followers. It's never too late to start your content creation journey. In this episode बहुत सारी अच्छी इंटरेस्टिंग फाइनेंस की बातें करेंगे. बहुत फन एपिसोड था. In a very fun way she explained a lot of financial topics. Plus we got to know her life story, how she left her corporate job, a very very high paying corporate job, and is now a full-time creator and a freelancer. Shreya's journey on today's episode of the CNTC show. Do like it, subscribe and make sure you comment कि अगला कौन गेस्ट लाया जाए. Hi Shreya, welcome to the CNTC show. क्या चल रहा है? How are you doing?
Hi Ayush, thank you so much for having me. This is like my first podcast ever, so I'm bound to like mess this up. But anyway, thank you so much for having me.
Dude, suddenly your posture changed like एकदम फॉर्मल हो गया. पहले you were like हाँ क्या चल रहा है, आजा चिल करते हैं.
I'm telling you, like I have this camera fear. Like I'm not even kidding. When I say that I have this very like chronic fear of the camera, I'm very honest that that's how it is. Like when I see that it's being recorded or like somebody's going to see it, there's like a body shift जो बहुत ही subconsciously होता है. मेरे को पता भी नहीं चलता कि वो हो रहा है, but वो होता है. And now I've just made peace with it. Like when people tell me that, oh, all of a sudden you like a lot of my friends say this, that when you are being recorded, you act very differently. And that's not because I want to act differently. It's just that like it's a subconscious shift.
Says the person who posts reels almost every single day. बात करते हैं ज़रा एक बार. How क्या transition था ये from being this camera shy person to now uploading so many reels?
Yeah, like so it's actually an ongoing joke between me and like some of my closest friends that how can you do this for a living? Like how are you a content creator for a living? Like the last person they ever thought would do content creation for a living was me out of like my entire friend circle. Because so there are like सबके वो school friends होते हैं ना जो उनके साथ ऐसे 11-12 साल से होते हैं. So your closest friends essentially जो जिन्होंने तुम्हें 6th-7th class में braces के साथ देखा है and like till now they're there. So I have 2 such friends, okay, and like whenever I meet them they're like, dude, like what went right? Actually, instead of asking what went wrong, they ask me what went right. Because so उनके साथ मेरी मुश्किल से 3-4 photographs होंगे over the past 12 years. I'm usually the one clicking them. Like I'm always behind the camera कि तुम दोनों आ जाओ and I'll click you guys, and that's how it is. It's always been like that, which also explains like my love for photography, because I was like, okay, I cannot express myself in front of the camera, I'll try and express myself behind it, which was how it was always the case. But then all of a sudden I started content creation and I kind of started enjoying the process. So like a lot of my friends are still in shock. उन्हें अभी भी विश्वास नहीं होता. They kind of keep re-watching my stories की like what exactly is going right, so that the next time they can convince me to click pictures with them. So yeah, it's been a transition for sure, but I think it was not easy. Like I wouldn't say that it happened overnight, how people claim, that like all of a sudden overnight ये transition नहीं हुआ था. To be very honest, I started the process of content creation around a year back. So the page that I run now, which is around finance, is the second page that I started. The first page that I started was around freelancing, because that's the first thing that I did after I left my job. So that page was exactly where I started my content creation journey. So I learned a lot about Instagram marketing and कि content creation कैसे करते हैं, and how reels are very important if you want to grow now. Because the mistake that I was making with that page is I was not making any reels, because again, with reels you need to come in front of the camera, right? So that was the last thing I wanted to do. But so yeah, like that page actually exposed me to a lot of stuff, and that actually pushed me to be in front of the camera. So that is where I started out my journey, to be very honest. And this page, sort of like the page that I have now, sort of became an extension of it. Like it's not the first time that I was being in front of the camera, to be very honest. The first time was with that page. It didn't do very well, obviously, because I wasn't putting out reels at all on that page. So that was a lesson that I learned, which I sort of implemented on this page, and then this kind of took off. So yeah.
We'll come to the rapid growth, but your journey has been incredible. So for the audience, from a really high paying job in Bain to then suddenly shifting to freelancing, and then now content creation. What I want to ask is this freelancing bit. Like, I have seen you write that I'm a freelancer, but on this page I don't see a lot of freelancing content. What kind of freelancing is this? Like, because I don't think you talk about this a lot with your audience at the moment. What is this? How did you get into it? Chal kya raha abhi iske around?
So basically, I left my job in February of 2020. I was working with Bain. For people who don't know, it's a management consulting firm. And that was a job I got right out of college. And the problem of getting a job right out of college is you don't think about the things that you want to do. Because if you get placed on campus, you're like, matlab life set over basically. And the good part about, getting placed right out of a DU college specifically is that anything you get is a lot of money, because DU is a very, very cheap university. You like, very honestly, if I have to give you the numbers, 3 years of Delhi University costed me 30,000 rupees. That's it. That was 10,000 rupees a year. Matlab DU ke competitions mein bhi agar aap jaoge, you will make more money than that. So DU as an institution is very inexpensive, which I'm extremely grateful for. So what I'm trying to say is that my undergrad got completed at almost like a very not a very exorbitant price. Let's put it that way. So when I got my first job at Bain, अगर वो मेरे को 30,000 रुपए भी देते ना, तो मेरे को लगता है चलो यार break even हो गया, मतलब you get it, like. But when a management consulting company comes on campus and they say that the first month's bonus is going to be 1 lakh, so that's exactly how much bonus I got on the first day of joining Bain. I got 1 lakh. Just that was over and above my monthly salary, just by the way. So I was like, dude, ये तो मतलब life set हो गई है. मतलब और क्या चाहिए लाइफ में? Like the first day you join Bain, you're a six-figure income earner, and मतलब यार इससे पहले I'd done like internships and I'd done like मतलब छोटे मोटे entrepreneurship वाले जो काम लोग करते हैं कॉलेज में वो किए थे, but I'd never earned 6 figures in my life, and that too in a month. So for me that was a very big like sort of a paradigm shift एकदम से कि यार I can make that much money. So that's exactly what happened at Bain, and because of the money, unfortunately I never sat down and thought about yaar ki what is it that I'm actually good at and what is it that I actually want to do. Like, is management consulting something I want to do, or like am I just doing it because everybody around me is like, oh bahut achhi job hai, high paying job hai, and iske baad you can easily go for an MBA abroad, because if you're from an MBB background, it's very easy to get like a good MBA college abroad. Like, I'm sure you understand, right? Like if I'm from Mackenzie, BCG, Bain background, these top Ivy League colleges also can take you. And I know a lot of my seniors who went to Ivy League schools for their MBA. But when I was within that organization, I started questioning a lot of things as to like, if this is the right platform for me. Do I see myself, like growing upwards in a career which is in management consulting? So there's a very famous quote which I always kind of keep going back to, is that it says that if you keep climbing that ladder, but if that ladder is leaning up against the wrong wall, was it worth it? So that's exactly what it was for me, right? Like from an analyst, I became a senior analyst and I would have become an associate, but it just didn't make sense for me, very honestly, because I realized that the skills that I had and I valued as a person were not being used, and the skills that they valued, I kind of was okay not having. Like that was the imbalance that was created in the job, and which is why I quit after almost 2 years of working there. And I quit after 2 years because I remember December they said they'll give out the bonus, and I was just like, bonus mil jaye, uske baad next month I'll quit. So that's exactly why I kind of like I was there for almost 2 years, because I was like, bas December cycle finish ho jaye and then I'll get my bonus and then I'll quit, and that's exactly what I did. No regrets. So, but I think the only thing I regret looking back now is that I didn't have a plan, very honestly. So when I quit in February of 2020, I didn't know what I'll do next. So it's not very uncommon for people to quit their jobs. ऐसी बहुत stories हमने सुनी है कि we quit our 9 to 5 and did so and so, मतलब जो भी, like we did something else apart from a 9 to 5. But at the time of quitting, I had no idea what I'd do, very honestly. And now when I look back, I'm like, dude, how dumb were you? Like, now I would never do that. Like, I would never quit a job without having like an alternative at hand. But उस time पे I did. I don't know what came into me, or like मैं कितनी ज़्यादा frustrated थी उस time पे. I just quit without thinking.
Was it gradual or was it like कि एक ऐसा moment आया जब चमका कि can't do this?
There were definitely things that compounded 100%. It was not like this one incident that happened that made me quit usi din. Because anyway, they give you like a notice period. Like, so even if in a notice period you say that, okay, I don't want to quit. Now I'm rethinking and I don't want to quit. You can take back your, notice period. Like that is absolutely acceptable. So for me, it was not like a sudden decision. In the sense that I knew that I had to quit eventually, but the thing that was not well thought of was what I would do next. The quittal process was thought of. Like I had understood कि ठीक है मुझे ये नहीं करना, मेरे को इसके आगे MBA नहीं करनी, probably मुझे management consulting नहीं करनी, probably working in an office is not something that I would want to do. Also, I think at the time a lot of factors came together. Very honestly, I was reading this book called Finding Your Element. And this is a true story. And that book it's actually by one of my favorite TED speakers of all times. His name is Ken Robinson. So he wrote this book called Finding Your Element. And he talks a lot about, how schools kill creativity and, like how things were tested on is like, we're only tested on a few subjects when people can, human beings are meant to be creative. Like I can be good at public speaking, which is not tested in school. What is tested in school, I might not be good at, which makes me feel really dumb, but I might not be dumb, right? So that was essentially what the book was around. And the book is around how it helps you find your passion. So reading that book, I very quickly realized that management consulting is definitely not my passion. But then what is? So I quit my job and I took a cool off period of almost like a month and a half. So I quit in February, and March was when I took like a cool off period. And I kind of sat down with myself, read the book, but watched a lot of YouTube videos on finding your passion and all of that. I think that's something everybody does. So I did all of that. And actually towards the end of March, I kind of started out my journey. I was like, okay, let's not delay it any further, because I think what's really important when you're finding out your passion is to just get started. You can think of 100 things that you're passionate about, but until unless you don't do it, you'll not be able to figure out what is the right sort of fit for you. An example of that is that I started out my journey. When I started out my freelancing journey, I wanted to be a photographer. Because as I told you, right, like I was always this person who was passionate about photography, and I always wanted to explore that side. Just the creative side of photography. So I called up a bunch of photographers. I connected with them on Instagram. It's very easy, right? Nowadays, it's very easy to connect with anybody from any profession, LinkedIn, Instagram, so on and so forth. So I connected with a bunch of photographers. I talked to them. I even assisted one of them. And through a friend of friend, I got to know of him, and I assisted him on one of his projects, which was like a wedding photography sort of thing. I very quickly, after that assignment, when I came back home, I very quickly realized that ye mere se nahi hone wala. Like this is not the right fit for me. And not because, photography is not creatively challenging or anything. It's a very...
Not for you.
It's a hobby for me, and I would want to make it, like I would want to maintain the status quo. Like I wouldn't want to monetize a hobby. That's exactly what it became. Because for me, photography was a very creative process. And जैसे ही उसमें कोई deadline आ जाती थी, या फिर, there were certain briefs that had to be met, all of a sudden that creativity aspect sort of just vanished for me personally again. And also I realized that photography is not just about, going to these exotic locations and taking pictures. It's also about editing them on the weekends and like not meeting your friends and all of that. There's certain lifestyle that comes along with it, which is not glorified enough. So we see only one aspect of like being in a creative space, but I think there's a lot more to it, which is why I kind of very quickly was able to decipher that, okay, photography is probably not for me.
Ye nahi hai.
And then I moved on to the next thing. Ye nahi hai. Which I now when I look back at it, I think it was great that I just figured it out within like days, and people kind of think about it over years कि क्या मतलब शायद मैं photographer बन जाता या मैं वो बन जाती. Just do it. Like just talk to people in the field and like, talk to them, assist them for a project. You'll get to know if that lifestyle is for you or not. That's basically it, right? Like rather than thinking कि क्या होता अगर मैं वो करता types. So then I moved on to the next thing which I thought I was good at, which was writing. So writing is something that I've always been good at along with research because I came from number one, a business background wherein, a lot of writing was required, formal writing essentially. And then research because I was from a consulting background. So research is something that we had to do on an everyday basis. So I thought, why not, marry these two things and I can create content, like write content essentially. And I think just like every other person who wants to start freelancing starts out, I created an account on Upwork and Fiverr and freelancer.com, not really knowing, the reality of these platforms.
मिल गए थे clients?
See, I found clients, very honestly. I'm not going to say that clients ही नहीं मिले. But what I'm going to say is that, matlab, on platforms, for people who don't know it, what happens is there's a bidding process that you need to bid for a project. So say, for example, I'll do that work for 1,000 rupees. There will be like 500 people who will pick up the project for say, for example, 500, like half the price, probably even lesser than that, right? So all of a sudden, there is no incentive for you to do the project. Like the cheapest one usually gets the bid. At least like if you are a newcomer and you don't have like a existing portfolio to share. So then I was like, dude, this is not going to work out. Like I did a couple of projects there and like, that helped me gain a lot of experience. So I'm not going to lie, that definitely helped. But then I was like, why, do almost free ka kaam for other people? I would rather do it for people around me. So that's when I started doing, like social media marketing and all those digital marketing kind of things along with writing. Because I've taken a bunch of courses on this, very honestly, like online free ke jo hote Google ke, and also paid. Like I got a couple of courses. So I was like, I probably am not an expert, but I probably know a thing or two more than the people who are just starting out, right? And because us time pe also the COVID restrictions and everything were announced, people were opening their small businesses. So that was a market that I thought I could cater to, right? Because they could not hire a management consulting firm. They didn't have the budget for it. But probably what they had a budget for was to work with like an independent sort of consultant. And because I came from like a strategy background, consulting background, and I knew marketing also because I'd done all of that in my undergraduation. And then I knew how to do a customer profiling and how to do market segmentation, all of those things. I knew a thing or two about it for sure because I'd done that at my workspace and I had done that in my college. So that's what I started helping out like small businesses with. And like that's when I started on my Instagram page, which I was telling you about, the first Instagram page, which was where I used to, share just knowledge about how to brand yourself, your startup, right? And that's where I started taking like independent projects. And the first 30 minutes, I used to like provide free consultation for a lot of small startups. And if they liked, they could probably take it further.
How are you promoting this? Were you just reaching out to people that you knew?
Yeah. So at the time of starting out, I reached out to like my friend circle and like friends of friends, of course. And but after working on a few projects, I was able to build up my portfolio enough that I could then reach out to people. So of course, after that, the usual drill of, reaching out to people on LinkedIn, cold emailing. And of course, there are like certain groups on Facebook and LinkedIn that you can post your services to and then they reach out.
What are these groups?
Startups, example, startup network of Delhi, something like that. So there are a lot of groups like that. So if you become a member there are a lot of like job offers that keep pouring in every single day because they're either looking for somebody who can write, somebody who can do their social media marketing, somebody who can build their website. A lot of offers keep coming up. So I joined a bunch of these groups, got a couple of clients. In that process, I actually landed, like I started working with like this digital marketing agency as an independent freelancer. That was sort of like my big break because that agency allowed me to connect with like a lot of bigger players because bigger players didn't sort of like come out to me, individually because of course, matlab main koi aise Gary Vee to hu nahi. But what helped me was because even though I was an independent sort of a worker, because that agency became like sort of my front. Like you can do this project and but I was in loop, but I was basically under that agency. Like, I hope you understand, right? So that's how it started out. And that's when I got my first big sort of fintech client. And because I was really interested in finance as a space, वैसे भी, because like my undergrad had done finance में major. So that's how it started out. And that was like my first big client. And that's when it hit me for the first time in like 4 months that I could actually do this for a living. And I probably don't have to go back to a 9 to 5. Because up until that point, even though I was enjoying the process 100%, it wasn't making me a lot of money. And especially when I was coming from a company like Bain. See, I'm not saying that money is everything, but I am also not going to deny the importance of it. All right. You need money to sustain yourself. And you need to make decent amount of money if you want to, live, if you are aiming for financial freedom, which I am. So for me, money was an important aspect. I'm not going to lie. So when I got my first big client, that for me was definitely like a turning point that, okay, I can probably do this for you.
You sounded very guilty when you said that money was important. Why are people guilty of earning money? I don't get it. I love money. I work hard because I want to make more money.
Yeah, and I think one of the major reasons why I started out my page on personal finance was actually to change that mindset. I think especially in India, I've seen this very often that कोई अगर एक relative बहुत पैसा कमा रहा होता है, for example, your parents will come up to you and they're like, कुछ पक्का कुछ 2 नंबर का बिजनेस कर रहा होगा,
कुछ गड़बड़
like
है।
पता नहीं क्या, हाँ कुछ तो गड़बड़ है मतलब. They never say that, oh, because he worked hard, he's making that money, or probably she did something right, that's why she's making money. What people need to understand is that, number one, just because somebody has more money than you doesn't mean that you don't have the opportunity to make more money. Right? It's not an either or situation. It doesn't mean कि अगर आयुष के पास पैसा है तो श्रेया के पास नहीं हो सकता. I think a lot of people come from that mindset. People feel like, oh, अगर उसके पास पैसा है तो मेरे पास नहीं हो सकता. But that's not how it is. It's not an I. Yeah, exactly. It's not an either or situation. It's an and situation, which is what people, I think, need to understand. And also, I think the second thing that people need to understand is that social service is great and I'm all for it. But if you have money, you can only do more social service if you think about it. If I have the funds to support the NGOs I want to support, then what's better than that, right? So I'm not saying be an asshole. That's absolutely not what I'm saying. But I don't know why people tend to, say that, oh, the more money you have, the more sort of like asshole you are. Then that's not true. Like if you have more money, I think it puts you in a better position to help out more people. So why not? Like I want to make more money because I want to help out more people. If I have the means to help out more people, then why not? I think that's the space that people need to start thinking of about money, which I think right now in India, like a lot of people don't. Not just India, like I think worldwide, but
Villainized, Anna. If you see like all villains are these rich, like this rich clout of people who are inaccessible and they would do things with money that are really bad. And while there are a lot of things that are bad about money, earning in general or I think having a capitalistic mindset, personally I don't feel it is wrong. While I know some people who think it is, I personally don't think it is. I think it's I follow Naval. I don't think it's a zero-sum game. I truly think it's a positive sum game. That said, from this paisa from all these good clients to now suddenly you're transitioning towards being a full-time creator. This transition, how did this happen? Like I know you found that love for finance, but was it gradual or was it like chuck it, bye clients, I'm moving to finance?
No. That's still not the case, very honestly. See, I've always loved personal finance. There is no doubt about it. I come from a house where, my dad's a CA and I personally am a finance graduate. And I started investing very early on. I started investing when I was 18. I was reading up about investing up until I was 17. Paper trading जो लोग अब करते हैं, I finished paper trading when I was 17. I was like 18 से तो मुझे invest करना है, तो उससे पहले मुझे क्या जानना है, I need to know this till I'm 17. People start doing the paper trading and all those things now. कि अच्छा, we have to start investing, so पहले ये करके देख लेते हैं. I did all of that when I was 17. I was like 18th birthday से तो भाई मुझे invest करना है, तो मुझे बताओ उससे पहले मुझे क्या चाहिए. Like I had my demat account, I had my trading account, everything was ready already. So I started the day I turned 18, very honestly. So it's been a while now. uh, so yeah, so very honestly, I have seen my money grow over the past couple of years also, because I started investing very early on. And I already have made a lot of mistakes. You know, when people are age now start investing, I've already made those mistakes in the past. I already am investing in mutual funds. I'm already investing in index funds. I'm already investing in individual companies. I've already done that. I've lost money also in the process. मैंने already futures options कर लिए है, derivatives भी करके बेच दिया है, उसमें नुकसान भी हो गया है, उससे lesson भी सीख लिया है कि नहीं करना आगे. So, you know, one of the biggest sort of hate comments I get on my page is, you don't even know about futures and options and derivatives, because I don't talk about it often. I actually wrote an exam on these topics. Like I actually studied these topics. So there's this इतनी मोटी बुक आती है दामोदरन की on valuation. ठीक है, वो पढ़ी हमने, उस पे एग्जाम वाइवा दिया मैंने. So I find it so funny when people watch like 2-3 YouTube videos and they're like, oh, अब तो हम futures option के मतलब पता नहीं क्या हो गया. I wrote exams on these topics, got an A plus on these topics. Still, I choose to not trade in them because I still don't think I'm an expert, and it's okay. And I've also realized that you can make money without, you know, putting your money into instruments you don't fully understand. So very honestly, I have never once said that, you know, I'm an expert when it comes to futures, options, derivatives, valuation. Nahi, I am not. But what I do understand in essence is the stock market. Yes, I do understand that because I've been investing in it for a very long period of time now. I know how to get you started. I know what to avoid, what not to do. I know what to look out for in a stock when you're investing for a long-term horizon, because that's something that I've personally done.
Can we quickly answer these questions as well? Like, what do you actually look for when I'm, let's say, starting out? This is, I think, more of a personal question.
So I'll tell you my process of like how I started out. So I started out with so when you're talking about, I think, the equity market, which is what I invest in very actively. I think 90% of my income goes to equity. So I would say I'm very heavily invested in the market for sure.
You were talking about as a new investor, what should I take care of? How should I start my journey?
Okay, so I'll just like probably reiterate what my process was, and probably that will help a couple of people. So I started investing in index funds. That was the first thing I started investing with, because index funds are the easiest to start out with. That's the only logic. See, the thing is, you can also start out with mutual funds, but the problem with mutual funds is there are so many of them, and it's difficult to figure out which one is the right for you. And is it a large cap fund, or is it a mid cap fund, or a hybrid, or small cap, or हर बैंक के इतने सारे हैं.
Please break down.
Yeah, there are so many mutual funds to choose from. So there's this idea that, you know, analysis paralysis. There is so much that you don't start out with any. So which is why my first, just to start the momentum, my first advice to somebody who's just starting out with their investing journey is to start out with index funds. Because index funds का क्या है, 2-3 ही है. मतलब there's either Nifty 50 or there's Sensex 30 or there's Nifty Next 50. Like choose from one.
कैसे करते हैं इसमें invest?
Yeah, you can invest through your broker. Like honestly, so I initially, when I started out, I used to do it with HDFC Securities, which is where my account is. But because unke transactional charges are really high, now I do it through Coin by Zerodha. So Coin is essentially Zerodha for mutual funds and index funds. So basically, you can use that app also. So uske थोड़े transactional charges कम है, but इतना फर्क नहीं पड़ता. Very honestly, you can just start out with any broker you have. Just start out. That's the trick. And just figure out which index fund probably has the lowest in expense ratio, and then start out with that. Like, don't think too much about it कि भाई ICICI बैंक वाला लूँ, HDFC का लूँ, UTI का लूँ, because उसमें भी different banks, institutions के हैं index funds. But the only criteria I think you need to keep in mind is expense ratio थोड़ा कम होना चाहिए, because you need to understand that an index fund is passively managed. So basically it will only mirror the market. So इसका expense ratio ज़्यादा है होना भी नहीं चाहिए. Ideally less than 1%. 1% भी actually काफी ज़्यादा है, but come on the lower side is what the only criteria you need to remember is. And why also it's a very good option to start out with is, say for example, Reliance अभी top 50 companies में है, so that's awesome. कल अगर नहीं होगा तो आपको फिजिकली जाके निकालना नहीं पड़ेगा उसको म्यूचुअल फंड से, वो अपने आप मार्केट उसे निकाल देगी. सो द मार्केट विल ओनली इन्वेस्ट इन द टॉप 30 और द 50 कंपनीज ऑफ द कंट्री, व्हिच इज ऑसम, राइट? बिकॉज व्हेन यू स्टार्टिंग आउट आप ज्यादा रिस्क लेना भी नहीं चाहते, सो यू माइट एज वेल इन्वेस्ट इन द टॉप 50 टॉप 30 कंपनीज ऑफ द कंट्री and you can start out with 500 rupees. You don't even need like 2 lakh rupees to start out as capital. You just need 500 rupees a month. So with 500 rupees a month, you become a part owner in like the top 50 companies of the country. So what's better than that, right? Like, and historically this this passive fund has actually performed better than a lot of actively managed funds. So like it's a win-win situation. So that's how people should start out. Zero दिमाग लगा इसमें, एक दिन में प्रोसेस स्टार्ट हो जाएगा एंड 500 रुपीज. सो यू डोंट रियली हैव, मतलब ये भी नहीं है कि भाई मेरे पास इतने पैसे ही नहीं है कि मैं स्टार्ट आउट करूँ. So that's how I started out. The second thing I started recently, very actually started investing in, was small cap mutual funds. And this thing I personally do that is because index funds में small cap नहीं cover होता, and because I feel like I'm in my 20s, I can take that risk of investing in small cap funds or mid cap funds, for example, because they're very, very volatile, but they also give you returns accordingly. So it's not a recommendation, but it's just that my risk profile allowed me to invest in small cap, so I do that.
Small cap, mid cap is size of companies.
Yeah, exactly. So anything after, so 101 to 250 is mid cap, and uske baad is small cap, right? And these, so these of course will not be blue chip companies or companies that are very popular in India. So say for example HUL or Nestle, ये सब blue chip companies है, ये already top 100 में होंगे. But जो smaller companies होती है, the thing is, the smaller the company, the higher is the probability कि वो आपको अच्छा return देगी. But the problem is risk भी उतना ज़्यादा होता है. So basic fund है, ज़्यादा risk होगा तो ज़्यादा return आने की भी probability है. अब वो आप पे डिपेंड करता है आपको कितना रिस्क चाहिए, कितना रिटर्न यू वुड वांट आइडियली. सो अ बेसिक रूल ऑफ थंब जो पर्सनल फाइनेंस में बोलते हैं कि इफ यू आर लाइक नियरिंग योर एज ऑफ रिटायरमेंट, probably don't invest in mid cap and small cap, like stick to your large cap funds, right? So even abhi, if you take a very recent example, abhi market में जो corrections आई थी, small cap was bleeding like anything. So people were in loss, huge losses. But वही है that if you are in it for the long run, you're okay with it, you are able to sleep at night. But अगर अपना retirement fund आपने small cap में लगा दिया है और आपको कल retire होना है, तो probably not a good idea. So that's how it is, that's how it functions. So yeah, so personally I started out with index funds, then I sat down, I figured out, okay, what is the next thing that I'm looking for, like what is the other thing that I want to diversify my portfolio with, and that's when I started a sip with a small cap fund. My major income though goes to individual stocks, because I kind of feel like because my dad's also a CA, you need to understand that I'm coming from a family where this is something that we very often talk about, and we've been talking about for the past I don't know how many years. So there's an open discussion around these things, and my dad understands the market a lot better than I do. He's been doing it for almost 35 years now, so of course he knows. उन्होंने अपने पैसे गवाए थे 1992 में उस scam के बाद, and उसके बाद he's learned so much. So, which is why he's like really chill, and like he understands the market, and he understands why, the lesson that penny stocks में invest मत करो. People understand that now कि yes bank में नहीं करना चाहिए invest after they've lost money. I know that because my dad told me कि भाई जितनी easily ये companies ऊपर जाती है उतनी easily ये नीचे भी आती है. So with that background in mind, my dad and I kind of figure out, okay, which is the individual stock that we want to invest in, and majority of my portfolio is actually individual stocks. So I have almost 25 to 30 individual stocks actually in my portfolio currently, and it's built up. It's not that this happened over the past year. I've been doing this for the past 6-7 years now, so it's been a while. And of course I started heavily investing when I got my first income, and I started working with Bain, but usse pehle bhi I was doing it. So yeah, so that's what my portfolio is. But individual stocks is not something that I would recommend to somebody who's just starting out, because wo company kal band bhi ho sakti hai. So there's a lot of risk involved. There's a lot of analysis that goes into it for sure, and also there's a lot of patience that goes into it. So क्या होता है कि I'll give you an example. One stock that I was I wouldn't say very heavily, but I was invested in was SBI cards. IPO आया था last year. मेरे को ना कभी IPO allotments नहीं मिलते, मतलब कभी भी नहीं मिलते. SBI cards का मेरे को मिल गया. And I was like very happy because it's a good company, fundamentally strong. SBI है, credit card company. मेरे को लगा भाई ये तो multi bagger. जैसे ही एंड तेको पता है बाय नो फॉल्ट ऑफ द कंपनी मार्केट कंडीशंस ऐसी थी कि वो प्राइस नीचे गिर गया. कोरोना वायरस का टाइम था, मतलब एकदम लॉकडाउन अनाउंस हो गया. ऑफ कोर्स उसका प्राइस नीचे जाना ही था. And I lost money in that stock because मेरे को IPO I think 750 के अराउंड मिला था. Within few months it was around 500. And if you think about it, percentage basis में it's a lot of like loss. You've and over a couple of months, not even like over a year का period. At the time when it got 550, I actually bought a lot of SBI cards, and now it's trading well above 1000. So the idea is that you need to know if so not to brag or anything, but all I'm saying is that you need to be patient. If you've identified a good stock, you need to be in it for a long run. I know of a lot of people who sold off SBI cards. SBI card के against negative arguments आने लगे all of a sudden from the same analyst जो पहले SBI cards के against positive बोल रहे थे कि भाई ये तो बड़ा ही अच्छा stock है और पता नहीं इसके fundamentals बड़े अच्छे हैं. So the thing is, you cannot listen to the market analysts. You need to do your own research because market analysts वो बोलेंगे जो market में उन्हें दिख रहा है. वो ना तो मतलब they don't majority को इतना information या देख the thing is किसी को भी information नहीं है market के बारे में. SBI कार्ड पर गिरेगा या उठेगा मेरे को भी नहीं पता. ये किसी को ये SBI कार्ड के चेयरमैन को भी नहीं पता, किसी को भी नहीं पता. So I think the problem is when market analysts start saying कि ओ ये तो अब buy कर दो, ये sell कर दो इस price पर और target price ये है. I'm like dude तेको कैसे, अगर तेको इतना पता तो तू न्यूज एंकर क्यों है, तू जाके राकेश झुंझुन वाला बनना. तू यहाँ क्या कर रहा है, मेरे को ये समझ नहीं आता लोगों का. मतलब don't get me wrong or anything, but what I don't understand is when people pretend that they're gods and they know everything about the market and in reality nobody knows. सब ऐसे वीडियो बना रहे हैं कि मार्केट क्रैश आने वाला है. मार्च से वीडियो बना रहे हैं कि मार्केट क्रैश आने वाला है. मार्केट ऑल टाइम हाई पे पहुंच चुका है. मतलब मेरे को समझ में नहीं आता कि यही प्रॉब्लम है. अब अगर आप 10 साल बोलते रहोगे कि मार्केट क्रैश आ रहा है तो एक साल तो मार्केट क्रैश होगी ही ना. फिर उस साल बोलेंगे हमने तो बोला ही था. अरे व्हाट इज दिस नॉनसेंस. if you keep repeating something for 10 अगर अच्छा पता है मार्केट न्यूज में क्या करता है, 10 स्टॉक्स बोलते हैं कि हम रेकमेंड कर रहे हैं 10 स्टॉक्स, उसमें से 2 तो चलेंगे ही. इतनी प्रोबेबिलिटी तो हर में होती है. फिर अगले दिन बोलेंगे हमने तो बोला ही था ये चलेंगे. it's a numbers game यार. I'm not even kidding, this is exactly what happens. ऐसे 10 स्टॉक्स बता देंगे, अगले हफ्ते बोलेंगे यार देख अगर मैं आज भी देखो 10 स्टॉक्स बताऊं ना, प्रोबेबिलिटी है कि 2 तो उसमें से चली जाएंगे. मैं रैंडमली बोलूंगी ना तो भी, मतलब यू अंडरस्टैंड हाउ प्रोबेबिलिटी वर्क्स राइट. फिर बोलेंगे कि हमने तो रेकमेंड नहीं करा था. एंड आई एम लाइक अंकल आपने वो और 8 स्टॉक्स भी तो रेकमेंड करे थे जिनके बारे में आप मेंशन भी नहीं कर रहे हो अब. लाइक यू नॉट इवन टॉकिंग अबाउट देम. सो रैंडम, इट्स सो वियर्ड. लाइक that's something. So what I'm trying to say is that people try and pretend that they can predict the market, but in reality nobody can predict the market, which is why it's profitable. You need to understand. अगर मेरे को कल पता होता कि कौन सा स्टॉक उठने वाला है तो यार मैं रील्स थोड़ी ना बना रही होती. मैं मतलब I would have been the next राकेश झुंझुनवाला. Do you understand? Which is something that people need to consider. ये सेल्फ अवेयरनेस होना बहुत जरूरी है कि तुम्हें नहीं पता मार्केट के बारे में, एंड मार्केट collectively is probably smarter or irrational than you are. It can be either way, but your predictions might not be true. So for example यार मार्च में कोरोना वायरस आया, उससे ज्यादा बुरा क्या हो सकता है इकोनॉमी के लिए कि इकोनॉमी बंद हो गई. मार्केट उसके बाद से भी डबल से ज्यादा उठ चुकी है, एंड पीपल हु आर वेटिंग फॉर अ क्रैश are still waiting and the market is still going up. And I'm not saying that market अब इससे ऊपर ही जाएगी because मुझे भी नहीं पता कि कल क्या होने वाला है. So rather than attempting to predict कि मैं इस time पे घुसूं या I'm waiting for the market to crash, all you can do is just be disciplined in your approach and invest every single month. So if you invested in March जब market में actually crash आया था 7,000 points हो गया था something If you invested then, आपके पैसे already double हो चुके हैं. If you think about it, rather than trying to time कि market अब crash होगा तो मैं invest करूँगा और मैं small cap में तब घुसूँगा जब small cap अभी तो PE valuation बड़ी high है. या ये सब बोलने की बातें होती हैं. The thing is, stocks like Pidilite already PE ratios, जो उनका PE ratio है वो उससे ज़्यादा ही already trade करे, already they're overvalued, but they still keep on increasing because the thing is, just PE ratio or like some random ratio alone cannot tell you if a stock is overvalued or undervalued. So I think when people start out, they try and be like experts कि भाई हमें ratios पता चल गए, हमें तो income statement पढ़ ली हमने, हमें सब समझ आता है ratios के बारे में, तो हम बता सकते हैं कि कब घुसना है. See, I'm not saying that ये किसी भी valuation पे घुस जाओ, like be rational about it 100%. Like there are a lot of stocks that are on my watch list, but I personally feel they're very expensive to enter. But at least index fund से तो start करो, like at least believe in the Indian economy, right?
Invest on India is, bet on the Indian economy as a whole is what you're saying. That makes sense. I was about to ask that what led to your rapid growth, but I am not gonna ask that now. I really enjoyed the last 10 minutes. And I'm sure कि अब मुझे समझ आ रहा है कि लोगों को मजा तो आ रहा है.
No, but I'm sure you understand the rationale behind it, right? Like you understand why I don't trust like any market analyst, because वो market बस वही करते हैं जो सही हो जाती है prediction. वैसे तो मैं कल 10 stock predict कर दो, बोलूँ कि भाई मैंने तो बताया था. If you invested, like if you listen to my stock tip, तुम next Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, ऐसे नहीं होता. Even so in a recent interview, Rakesh Jhunjhunwala said that he lost out on so much money in the last 1 year. So if he, who has done it for the past 30 years, has given his entire life to the stock market, मतलब उनका तो main time profession है, तो जो बंदा ऐसे आधे घंटे के लिए साइड में ट्रेडिंग कर रहे हैं वो कैसे बीट कर सकता है मार्केट को, मेरे को ये समझ नहीं आता. तो ये सेल्फ अवेयरनेस होना बहुत जरूरी है. तुम एक एक्सपर्ट को दे दो ना पैसे. Like if you don't know well enough about the market, doesn't mean you cannot make money out of it, right? You put your money in index funds, you put your money in mutual funds. End of story. Focus on your job. Like why do you? Not everybody has to be a full daytime trader, right? Like do your job. I'm not angry, यार. I'm just saying that मेरे को समझ नहीं आता जब लोग बोलते हैं ना कि मार्केट क्रैश आने वाला है और मतलब और आजकल तो YouTube भरा हुआ है ऐसे वीडियो से. मेरे को एक्चुअली बहुत गुस्सा आता है उन वीडियोस को देख के कि YouTube अब तो मार्केट क्रैश अभी नजदीक है कि आपको इन्वेस्ट करना चाहिए. मतलब ऐसे क्लिकबेट आइटम्स देख के लोगों से व्यूज लेते हैं. मेरे को बहुत गुस्सा आता है.
बहुत आना भी चाहिए. But your content creation journey, right? Like huge growth. I'll answer that question for you. The last 10 minutes we enjoyed so much infotainment content, great stuff. People want to learn about this. Shreya just loves ranting about things and also gives out the knowledge, so it's amazing. What I also want to ask is, do you think right now if I want to start making finance content, now बहुत सारे finance creators saw a major boom in the last 1 year because a lot of new traders and investors entered in the market, right? Record breaking demat accounts. Do you think it's the right time, or do you think that that ship has already sailed?
No, I think content creation in general is going to see a boom. Like I'm very positive about content creation, be it any niche, and specifically with finance, because I don't think we're anywhere near to where the potential of this economy is, very honestly. Like I still know of a lot of people who are investing in the market but don't know how to invest in the right way. So I don't think that it's like it's saturated. Like okay, I'm not gonna point fingers. You've already done that. But what I'm gonna say is that there is definitely a demand in the market. So I personally started out April this year. So it's been 4-5 months. So the reason why I probably didn't start out sooner was even I thought that, there are so many creators in the space already and some very good creators actually. So one creator I actually look up to is C.A. Rachana Ranade, for example. She deserves the kind of growth she has. Like she creates really good content coming from the right space and very knowledgeable, and I really appreciate her, the work she's doing. But the reason why I started out was not because I was like, oh ye galat information de rahe ho, meko sahi dena hai. It's because there are certain people who probably would resonate with you more than they resonate with anybody else. Like say for example, there's somebody who understands the way I explain things, and there's somebody who understands the way, say for example, an XYZ creator explains things. So you find your own tribe essentially.
Right.
And it's not about competition, because at the end of the day you're trying to achieve the same sort of end objective, right? Like the end
Correct.
objective is to spread personal finance, ideas around that. And also I think the idea is to spread personal finance, which means that it's very individualistic to everybody.
Personal to every creator as well.
Personal finance is very like personal, like that's exactly why it's in the name.
No shit.
So, yeah. So, like, my journey has been very different to, say, for example, your journey. And, for example, an XYZ creator's journey. So, if we're all telling stories of how we started and the mistakes that we did, we can never, it never be too saturated, I feel like, because, there are people who resonate with my content more than they resonate with somebody else's, because they probably made the same mistakes. They probably started out the same way. And they probably like the way I explain things. So, it's very individualistic is what I'd say, and I don't think it's saturated.
Do you ever feel कि खत्म हो जाएगा content? Like एक दिन मैं उठूंगी and then poof, I don't know what content to make.
ये actually होता, and I think this happens with every creator, because you're like, oh, मतलब there are only so many topics you can talk about. You can talk about mutual funds, you can talk about index funds, shares, ठीक है, cryptocurrency के बारे में भी बात कर लिया, वो fashion में आजकल. But क्या और कितना ही content create कर लोगे, right? तो जबरदस्ती तो नहीं कर सकते. But I've realized that, personal finance is more than just investing, is what I've realized over the past couple of months, actually, that it's also about having the right money mindset. What we were talking about earlier as to how having more money doesn't make you bad, or it actually puts you in a position where you can actually help out more people. So having the right money mindset also comes under personal finance, which is not talked about a lot. And I would want to talk more about it. Another topic that's not talked about when it comes to personal finance is budgeting. Budgeting is so important when it comes to creating the right sort of creating the right sort of financial plan for yourself. And not a lot of people know how to do it right. मतलब वो Excel पे कर लेते हैं, उन्हें पता नहीं है कि मतलब future के लिए कैसे plan करें. And I'm not saying that that's wrong. It's just that it's not talked about enough. Like the only aspect of personal finance I think is talked about is investing, whereas it's just a part of your entire personal finance journey. Planning for your future, planning for your retirement, planning for probably just the idea that if you leave your job, will you have enough funds for the next 6 months, is also personal finance, not talked
We
about.
know where that is coming from.
Yeah, exactly. So, when I left my job, I was so comfortable with the idea of not having work for the next 2-3 months. Of course, I was living with my parents, so it was not like I had to pay for rent or anything. But also because I saved up 80% of what I was making. I used to legit save 80%. So the only expenditure I had towards the end of my job was the rent that I was paying out when I was living in Gurgaon, which was nearer to my office. That was literally the only expense that I had. Everything else I was putting aside, and I was like, okay, I probably will not have work for the next 2-3 months, so I have to save up for it.
But that's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Like I
Because you have the cushion.
and also, if I don't take this risk now, I probably will not be able to take it when I'm 30. So might as well do it now. Because now I have lesser, like the only dependent on me is me. It's okay. मतलब मैं नहीं जाऊंगी अगले trek पे या vacation पे, तो it's fine. It's not going to
चलेगा.
affect anybody. Yeah.
There's this question which I ask everybody, is that if you could like go back in your life and just change one thing, what would that one thing be? And this need not be a finance mistake, but anything in.
Yeah, but I kind of have thought a lot about this question a lot of times in my life. वो होता है ना, तुम बैठते हो कि like यार shit काश ये ना होता types. मेरी life में बहुत बार हुआ है, but यार and I'm not trying to sound philosophical or anything like that here, but I would say that I think every experience kind of taught me a lot. And I wouldn't say that I would want a repeat of it. Definitely not. But I would probably not, yeah, I would probably want to relive it. But I would probably also not edit it out of my life 100%. So, like just the idea that I didn't know what to do after my job, probably not the smartest decision. But it taught me so much, because अगर मेरे पास already उस वक्त पे कोई plan होता, तो I wouldn't have explored the other options that I did when I didn't have a plan. So that taught me a lot, that entire, process of just figuring things out and like trying everything on my passion list. until unless I finally figured, okay, this is what I want to do long term. So there have been decisions which I would say are probably not the smartest, but I would not edit them out of my life. I wouldn't say ki kash wo na hota types. That's for sure.
Are you happy life में in general अभी?
Yeah, I think this is the happiest I've ever been, very honestly. And I know not a lot of people can say that, but I honestly, what I do on an everyday basis brings me so much satisfaction and like actually makes me feel like I'm making a difference, which is, I think, what we're all looking for, right? Like from whatever we do, we feel like बस काश वो एक like
Impact.
whatever job we're in, हाँ कि यार एक impact create हो चाहे किसी भी space में. One of the major reasons why I left Bain was because हम वहाँ पे MNCs के साथ काम करते हैं and what you do or say hardly ever creates an impact, right? Because एक say for example एक इतनी बड़ी कंपनी तुम्हारी बात क्यों सुनेगी, you know? So वो impact मेरे लिए personally missing था. कई लोगों को उसमें भी you know they find a lot of satisfaction in that job, which is great. But so basically, and that's when I started working with small startups, and I was like, yeah, you know, like whatever I was saying was creating an almost immediate impact. So for me, that was very, very important. And now when I'm also doing content creation, I get to interact with so many different people on an everyday basis that it actually just, you know, like मेरे को इतने messages आते हैं कि you know because of your content I started investing in index funds, and I'm like, that's awesome. This is actually a life changing sort of moment for you, that you started investing and you opened your demat account and trading account watching my content. So I'm not saying कि हर किसी ने करा है ये मेरे को message, but अगर एक भी message ऐसा एक दिन में आ जाता है यार, that's enough for you, right? Like it's enough for you to power through. So that's
Tell me something funny about content creation. This is like all good and impact and amazing, but something which is funny and that you've experienced in the last 3-4 months.
I think the funny aspect of content creation is that it becomes a vicious cycle. You start out content creation because you want to be creative, and you're like, oh, I want to, you know, give an outlet to like my ideas, and that's great. And that's honestly why I started out, because I was like, oh, this is an idea and I can present it in a certain way, and that for me is a very creative process. You know, just scripting and ideating and all of that. But what's funny in the process is that when you don't see results, you kind of try and copy कि अभी trending क्या है. Even if you don't believe in it creatively, or as a creator you don't believe in that trend कि या इतने अजीब से trends आने लगे हैं reels पे एक तो कि पता नहीं लोग कुछ भी करते हैं and that becomes a trend, right? Like anything people do, like a random step or whatever, becomes a trend. So I think as a creator, it ceases to be like a creative space, which is very funny because the reason why I started out content creation was to be creative, and now you're looking for what is everybody else doing that I'll also copy so that I get views. So I think falling in that trap is, and some creators do fall in that trap. Like I am trying to not do that, but वो ये कि algorithm again favors कि क्या trending and all of that. So it creates a very funny situation in my opinion. So finding that balance is tricky and funny.
Makes sense. I've experienced this way too many times, but that's, I think, part of this entire business. So we have this rapid fire round that we do, and this is like legit rapid fire. If you don't like answer in like a couple of seconds, we still haven't thought of what are the repercussions, but I always say that there are some repercussions. One day when I'll figure them out, I'll reach out to you again.
Okay. I'm like, this is almost like so much pressure.
There should be.
Yeah.
We are not joking here, Shreya. This is serious stuff.
I'm a guest.
I don't care. This is serious. It was all fun and games till now.
Okay, understood.
3, 2.
Wait, do I get a hamper at the end?
No, you don't get a hamper. Especially now you don't.
What is this risk-reward like imbalance? यार इतना risk है इसमें. Like there should be an equivalent reward, right? Rapid fire.
We have to cut this part out now. We can't let this leak out. Describe yourself in 2 words.
I'm kind and funny.
Okay, nice. One creator that inspires you.
Johnny Harris. I really like how his videos are very like well researched. And Ali Abdal.
सबसे ज़्यादा पसंद क्या कंटेंट क्रिएशन के बारे में?
The process ki it's a blank canvas. You can literally do anything with that idea. I really enjoy that a lot.
one funny thing about you as a person.
A funny thing about me would be, I am a taekwondo blue belt, and I kind of try my moves on my brother all the time.
I'm not coming to work with you. I'm a little scared now. 3 favorite movies.
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, it's so difficult to come up with three. Okay, A Pursuit of Happiness, of course. The Big Short, because it's finance related and I want to be like on brand. And the last one would be I need to give out a Shah Rukh Khan movie because he's my favorite. So Chak De India.
क्या टेम्पलेट शाहरुख खान फैन है यार तू. ओके.
Swades. Swades.
Nice. A creator that irritates you.
Yeah, a creator that irritates me. Yeah, before I put out the name, I would want to say that ever since I became a content creator, I have become more empathetic towards other content creators because I'm like, उनको already इतना hate मिल रहा है, तो मेरे को और नहीं करना चाहिए hate पे. अब having said that, I'm trying to think कि यार देखो पता है मेरे को नाम नहीं पता उनका but like I know what they look like. यार देखो what irritates me in general about content creation is when people make anything a trend. वो एक trend आया था ना where people were just like showing off their stomach and walking. I hated that trend. I was like dude ये कैसे viral हो रहा है? Like who is watching this? And millions of people did it.
Oh my god. Yes, it was.
I don't think it's the creator. It's again the pressure to be viral. I think so that irritates me a lot. I really hope that there's a time when better trends go like viral.
Life का मंत्रा क्या है? One thing you have to repeat yourself.
To be able to say no to people I don't want to work with. Like having that freedom to be able to say no to like people I don't like and say नहीं भाई मुझे नहीं करना काम आपके साथ no matter how much money you give me. You know, that is what is the end goal.
What would Shreya like to say to her haters?
It's fine. I sometimes hate myself too, so it's okay. It's fine.
This is the most diplomatic. I was expecting a lot of fuck yous and not. It's fine. It's okay.
We don't see. I don't want to say that to people because yeah. I'll tell you why. So there was a time 2014 in my life was a very dark year because which I'll get into later on. But like I was in my high school and like it was a very dark period for me. I said a lot of bad things about people during that time. And now when I look back, I'm like, why did I ever do that? And that was because I was in a very bad space myself. So I think when people hate on others, it's usually because they are going through something very traumatic or something very, very dark themselves. At least that was my scenario. Like I was depressed and very anxious and all of that. Like it was a very bad year in general. So now when I see hate comments, of course, like it's not something I'm happy about for sure because I'm also human, but I kind of understand where they're coming from. Like I understand that they're probably coming from an insecure space. And I hope that things get better at their end. Very honest, like that's what I hope for them. Because the reason why I was hating on a lot of people in that duration was because I was not in a good space. I've never seen somebody who's genuinely happy leave out hate comments. Like right now, even if I hate a particular trend, I would never take out the time to say, hey, what bullshit is this? And you should close your account. I would just let it go. I would not rewatch it. I would just forget about it. I would never take out the time.
Except for the uncles who spread a lot of stock tips.
यार ये तो मैंने like I've discussed it with you, but I don't think I'll ever go to them and be like ये क्या है uncle types. I'll probably like say it as a joke. I'll not be like मत करो. So
No, this is interesting. I answer with empathy.
when people say that you should be very kind to the people who support you 100%, but I think people who actually deserve your kindness are the people who are spreading hate. I'll give you an example. There was this person who left out a hate comment. And उस comment पे I replied. This is around 2 months back जब मेरे इतने followers नहीं थे. So I actually reached out to this person on comments and I was like, hey, it's probably possible that I see things differently than you do, like different perspective. That was what the reel was around. And that guy actually agreed. Within the next comment, he was like, yeah, I was not trying to spread hate. I'm sorry if that's how it came across. And I was like, it's okay. So that's, I actually fundamentally believe that no human being is like bad or evil. It's just that they're in certain circumstances which make them act that way. Because I have been that person. in 2014 I was that person who was like, oh, matlab spreading bad rumors about other people, because I was in that space. I wanted to feel good about myself, and the only way I could do that was by pulling others down. But now that I've had like 7 years to think about what went wrong, and now that I'm a lot older than I was, and I've had time to reflect upon those things, I now realize that why I was doing those things. Like, I'm not happy about it, but I've forgiven my younger self for doing it. So I kind of tend to forgive other people also for like spreading hate. I don't enjoy it. Don't leave hate comments. But if in case you do, yeah, like
Yes, please don't.
yeah, and it's the honest answer. Like, I'm not Mother Teresa or anything, and I'm not saying I'm the best person on the face of the planet, but because I have been in that space where I was the person who was spreading hate, I kind of understand it.
It makes sense. It's logical. Yeah. And what would be that one rumor which you would spread about yourself if you had to?
That Rachna Rande probably watches my channel and follows my tips. They're probably bringing a lot of positive PR.
This will be true very soon. It was great talking, yaar. Such a fun conversation.
Yeah, I didn't feel like a project. It was really nice talking to you, man. We should do this again. I'll probably start my own podcast and then have you on it.
तब नहीं बुलाया ना, तब फिर मैं भी rumor spread करूँगा कुछ. I will also spread some rumor.
I'll forgive you because I know where you're coming from, dude.
Oh, nice. I think on that note, on that joke, we'll end this show. This was a great conversation. It was lovely having you. Thank you for coming and thank you for taking out the time.
Absolutely, anytime. Thank you so much for having me. It was so nice talking to you, man.
Likewise, and I can't wait to meet you soon. But just don't do that taekwondo blue belt thing. Just
Don't do
that
anything
thing.
creepy and we'll be safe.